Do you see, Susima, the cessation of being comes cessation of birth? Yes. Similarly, with the cessation of clinging, etc., cessation of ignorance comes cessation of volition. To all this, he says, yes, my Buddha. So here, the Buddha is trying to make him see dependent origination of suffering and dependent ceasing of suffering. Basically, after he has stayed with the Buddha for some time, he would have learned all this stuff from the other monks. But here the Buddha is explaining to him to make him see all this basic Dhamma which makes a person become liberated. And then the Buddha said, knowing and seeing thus, Susima, do you wield the various kinds of spiritual power, such that having been one, you become many, etc., etc., and exercise bodily mastery as far as the Brahma world. So here the Buddha is saying, since you understand all this Dhamma, then do you have all these various types of psychic power? He calls psychokinesis. And he says, no, Venerable Sir. Then knowing and seeing that, Susima, do you with the divine ear element which is purified and surpasses the human, hear both kinds of sounds, the divine and human, those that are far as well as near? And he said, no, Venerable Sir. Then knowing and seeing that, Susima, do you understand the minds of other beings and persons, having encompassed them with your own mind? No, Venerable Sir. Then knowing and seeing that, Susima, do you recollect your manifold past abodes with their modes and details? No, Venerable Sir. Then knowing and seeing that, Susima, do you with the divine eye which is purified and surpasses the human, see beings passing away and being reborn, and understand how beings fare on in accordance with their karma? No, Venerable Sir. Then knowing and seeing that, Susima, do you dwell in those peaceful deliverances that transcend forms, the formless attainments, having touched them with the body? And he said, no, Venerable Sir. And then the Buddha said, hear now, Susima, this answer of yours and the non-attainment of those states. How could this be, Susima? So let's stop here for a moment. So the Buddha is repeating exactly what he said earlier. He asked the Arahants, since they have understood the Dhamma and become liberated, how come they don't have all the psychic powers? So the Buddha is also making him understand that having understood all this Dhamma, why is it that you also don't have any psychic power? Then the Venerable Susima prostrated himself with his head at the Blessed One's feet and said, Venerable Sir, I have committed a transgression in that I was so foolish, so confused, so inept, that I went forth as a thief of the Dhamma in such a well-expounded Dhammavinaya as this. Venerable Sir, may the Blessed One pardon me for my transgression, seen as a transgression for the sake of future restraint. And the Buddha said, surely, Susima, you have committed a transgression in that you were so foolish, so confused, so inept that you went forth as a thief of the Dhamma in such a well-expounded Dhammavinaya as this. Suppose, Susima, they were to arrest a bandit, a criminal, and bring him before the king, saying, Sire, this man is a bandit, a criminal. Impose on him whatever punishment you wish. The king would say to them, come men, bind this man's arms tightly behind his back with a strong rope, shave his head, and lead him around from street to street and from square to square, beating a drum. Then take him out through the southern gate and to the south of the city, cut off his head. What do you think, Susima, would that man experience pain and displeasure on that account? Yes, Venerable Sir. And the Buddha said, although that man would experience pain and displeasure on that account, going forth as a thief of the Dhamma in such a well-expounded Dhammavinaya as this, has results that are far more painful, far more bitter, and further, it leads to the nether world. But since you see your transgression as a transgression and make amends for it in accordance with the Dhamma, we pardon you for it. For it is growth in the Noble One's discipline when one sees one's transgression as a transgression, makes amends for it in accordance with the Dhamma, and undertakes future restraint. That's the end of the sutta. So here you see, this Susima, having learned the Dhamma, he realized that he did something very wrong, and he asked for forgiveness. So he understood that when a person sees the Dhamma, it's not necessary that he has all these psychic powers. But you see, for him to confess to the Buddha shows that he has understood the Dhamma, shows that I believe he has at least attained stream entry. So having attained stream entry and realized how good the Dhamma is, then only he admitted to the Buddha. You see, that he says, I have committed a transgression in that I was so foolish, so confused. I went forth as a thief of the Dhamma in such a well-expounded Dhamma Vinaya as this. So he realized that the Buddha's Dhamma Vinaya is so perfect, so good, and he is so bad. So at least he has become a stream enterer, and he won't go back to his old friends in the external sect. And if he strove on, he could have become an Arahant. Now we come to, that's the end of the Nidana Samyutta. It took us how many talks? It took us about 6 talks, maybe 5.5. Now we come to the second chapter of the Nidana book. It's the 13th chapter, 13th Samyutta of the whole Samyutta Nikaya. It's called the Abhisamaya Samyutta. It's discourses connected to the topic on the breakthrough to the Dhamma. People who have understood the Dhamma and attained stream entry, how the benefit of it. The first sutta, 13.1. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anatta Pindika's park. Then the Blessed One took up a little bit of soil in his fingernail and addressed the monks thus. That means just put a bit of soil on the fingernail, so little. And then he asked the monks, "Monks, what do you think? Which is more, the little bit of soil that I have taken up in my fingernail, or this great earth?" And they said, "Remember, sir, the great earth is more. The little bit of soil that the Blessed One has taken up in his fingernail is trifling. It does not amount to 100th part, or 1,000th part, or 100,000 part of the great earth." And the Buddha said, "So too, monks, for a noble disciple, a person accomplished in view," that means who has attained right view, who has made the breakthrough, the suffering that has been destroyed and eliminated is more, while that which remains is trifling. The latter does not amount to 100th part, or 1,000th part, or 100,000 part of the former mass of suffering that has been destroyed and eliminated, as there is a maximum of 7 more lives. Of such great benefit, monks, is the breakthrough to the Dhamma. Of such great benefit is it to obtain the vision of the Dhamma." That's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha says, a person who has attained right view, who has obtained vision of the Dhamma. Vision of the Dhamma is Dhamma Chakku. Sometimes they translate it as the eye of the Dhamma, but vision of the Dhamma is more correct. That means a person who has understood basically basic understanding of the 4 noble truths, and he has become a first path attainer. So such a person has a maximum of 7 more lives before he enters Nibbana. Cannot be more than 7 more lifetimes. Whereas if a person has not attained right view or the vision of the Dhamma, then the lifetimes remaining is countless. So that's why a person with 7 more lifetimes, the suffering is very little, because once he has become an Arya, a stream enterer, the blessing is so great. He will only be born either in heaven or in the human plane, and in both also he will have a very good life, because even he comes back as a human being, his blessing is so much that he will definitely have a very, very good life. So here, this is the benefit of understanding the Dhamma. It's not the same with attaining jhana, Even if you attain jhana and you have all the various types of psychic power, King Yama is still waiting for you. You are sure to meet up with King Yama as long as you have not understood the Dhamma. So understanding the Dhamma is much, much more important than getting all the various types of psychic power. Of course, the psychic power is advantageous if in addition to psychic power you learn the Dhamma, because if you learn the Dhamma with your psychic power, having attained the 4 jhanas, you will understand the Dhamma very fast. But the aim of the holy life is to understand the Dhamma, not to attain all the various types of psychic power. Those are just bonus issues. Most of the suttas in this chapter are all talking about the great benefit of obtaining the vision of the Dhamma. Different types of simile given. Now the other sutta in this Samyutta, Abhisamaya Samyutta, I'm going to read is the last sutta. At Savatthi, the Buddha said, "Monks, suppose that a man would place on Simaru, the king of mountains, 7 grains of gravel the size of mung beans. What do you think, monks?" Sorry, stop here for a moment. This Simaru is supposed to be a huge mountain in heaven. So it should be much bigger than our Himalaya mountains. So the Buddha said, if you place 7 grains of gravel the size of mung beans on Mount Simaru, what do you think, monks, which is more, the 7 grains of gravel the size of mung beans that have been placed there, or Simaru itself, the king of mountains? Venerable Sir, Simaru, the king of mountains, is more. The 7 grains of gravel the size of mung beans are trifling. They do not amount to 100 part or 1,000 part or 100,000 part of Simaru, the king of mountains. And the Buddha said, so too, monks, the achievement of ascetics, Brahmins and wanderers of other sects do not amount to 100 part or 1,000 part or 100,000 part of the achievement of a noble disciple, a person accomplished in view, who has made the breakthrough. So great in achievement, monks, is a person accomplished in view, so great in higher knowledge, Maha Abhinya. That's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha says, all those external sect ascetics and Brahmins, with all their psychic powers and all their other achievements, nothing compared to Aryan disciple of the Buddha who has attained right view. Even if the noble disciple, the stream enterer of the Buddha has only understood the Dhamma and even if he has not attained any psychic power, his achievement is much more beneficial than the achievement of all those external ascetics, even with their psychic powers. So that's how important it is to learn the Dhamma and understand the Dhamma. If you learn and understand the Dhamma, this we say this book is worth its weight in gold, much more than its weight in gold. Now we come to Samyutta number 14, Dhatu Samyutta. Discourses are concerned with the elements. There are various types of elements. The first sutta, 14.1, at Savatthi. Monks, I will teach you the diversity of elements. Listen to that and attend closely, I will speak. Yes, Venerable Sir, those monks replied. The Blessed One said this, and what, monks, is the diversity of elements? The eye element, form element, eye consciousness element, the ear element, sound element, ear consciousness element, the nose element, odor element, nose consciousness element, the tongue element, taste element, tongue consciousness element, the body element, tactile object element, body consciousness element, the mind element, mental phenomena element, mind consciousness element. This, monks, is called the diversity of elements. So here the Buddha is talking about the 18 elements concerned with the six sense organs. The 6 sense organs are the eye, the ear, nose, tongue, body and mind. And Here it mentions the sense organs, and then the sense object. The sense object is form, sound, smell, taste,